My name is Max, coming from France, and I have this project called High Wolf for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and it's like some kind of psychedelic, experimental, world-influenced music, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I read that you get your inspiration out of all kinds of cultures. Are you a sound traveler?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like interested in all different part of humanity, if you know what I mean. Like everyone has some very interesting culture, and it can be music, but also in writings or in like food or fashion or whatever. You know, like every human being is the same biologically, but then everyone makes some very different art, and I'm curious to see the singularity of every part of it, and I think it's very fascinating to see all those humans everywhere that are the same, but that are doing different things, if you know what I mean.
So the things that they do the same you want to grab, or are you more interested in the differences?
Yeah, I'm interested in both actually. It's like everyone, let's say, will have the same idea at first, like let's make music or let's make clothes or food, but there will be a very specific way of doing it depending on where the people are coming from, and I'm interested in this difference, in how is it possible that we have so many different music everywhere in the world, and it could have been the same thing everywhere. So I think it's very interesting, and it doesn't belong to like Korean music doesn't belong only to the Korean, and French music to the French. I think it's like it's some kind of world heritage that we are lucky to be able to listen to and to, you know, I don't know, analyze maybe is a strong word, but like we are able to look into it and see what makes it so different and so unique and interesting.
And can you give me an example? For example, if you go to India, what is fascinating you, and how do you catch it? How do you collect it?
Well, I think there is a lot of this process that is unconscious, so it will be hard to explain exactly what's happening. But I don't know, it's when you, even though the world seems like a very small place now, and you feel like everyone is living by the same standards or whatever, when you just go out of your bubble, of your like country or society, and you land somewhere very different, you realize so many things, because you get used to your daily life and you think that everyone is living the same way. But then when you go to some very different place, you realize that there is so many different options. Once again, like it can be in culture and art, but it's also in the way of life, and it just expands your mind in a way, because you think that your options are like between this path, and then you find something new, and you like, okay, so the possibility is actually more like this, So I don't know if it's a good way of explaining it, but
so you don't have a concrete example for me?
Not really, because it's 1,000 different pieces that come together and make this bigger feeling, and sometimes it's not even the thing that you can really point out and remember as a memory that will be the thing that has the biggest impact on you. So I really believe in all the unconscious process. So I think it's a package, it's a whole thing, and then it's not like just one story, like, oh yeah, someday I walk into the street and I find this. I think it's more subtle than this. So.
And this is also the way you compose. The subconscious and the unsubconscious connect.
Yeah, of course. I think it's for any single human being on earth. Is just the way you do any action is like part conscious, part unconscious. So you never really know what's coming from your will and what's coming from deeper things. So I think what I would say is it's a good thing to just let you be carried by something. So when you are making a piece of music, for instance, So of course you have your own ideas and you want to go somewhere and you try some options, but then there are many different factors that would make you go a little bit away from the way that you had planned at first. So it can be like something unconscious, but it also can be like chance or something random, like a mistake, and you want to do something and you miss it, but then you feel like, oh, but maybe that's going to be even more interesting. So yeah, I think there is all those things combined in composition, like the ideas, the conscious ideas, the unconscious, and the randomness or whatever.
And how you process making this music? I feel there's a lot of layers.
Yeah, that's why it's always like a bit funny to be programmed in such a minimal music festival, because I would say that my music is everything but minimal.
Yeah, why?
Because I tend to, as you say, put lots of layers on top of each other, and sometimes I realize that it might be good, you know, to be more minimal at some point, because it's also something I believe in, but it's too strong for me, the need to add something more. It's like, because an idea is coming, and then there is another idea coming, and then you're like, okay, this is done, but what if I add this and this and this, and it's never ending in a way, and I have a big trouble to just keep it minimal. But well, yeah, it's like I don't know. There is definitely what I would call like a strong idea at first, like you suddenly have like the big picture of what you want to do, and then you just get carried by the instant of the composition or like the playing, and then lots of new ideas are coming that you couldn't expect 2 minutes ago, and I don't know, the music is kind of growing and growing, and then at the end you have like a pile of layers, and then you know, it can sound like a mess or whatever, but it's just the way it's supposed to be, I guess.
So this pile of layers you pre-compose, and then performing you add another layer.
Well, there is nothing really pre-composed in a way. Yeah, it's an interesting question, because it's hard to really summarize this, but yeah, there can be, let's say, what you call pre-composed would be what I called as the big picture, you know, the idea, and then you can, you know, with the modern technology and computers, whatever, it's easy to record tracks after tracks after tracks. So you can basically just put your recorder on, and then you will have something running on forever if you want to, and then you just try some ideas. So you pick up an instrument, play some notes, try some effects, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So then you just take another instrument or change the scale or whatever. You know, you just, I don't know, it's like there is this part of like spontaneous composition, you know, like.
But this is during your performance?
Yeah, as well. In the performance are maybe more structured in the way that what I would have that is running around that I can improvise on will be more structured than in the studio, because it needs to be more solid in a way, because you play out there for people, and you don't want it to be like it can be very risky, you know, if you don't have any idea at all on what you are going to do. You need to be a very good improviser, and you need to, you know, it's a lot of, I think it's not what I'm looking for, because it's like I have to handle like the rhythm and the guitar and the electronics, and improvise with so many things at once. It can be hard to manage. So usually I would say the usual pattern that I will use live is I have some part of rhythms that I can affect and manage in a different way, and then on top of this it can be free to improvise with some predetermined things, like a specific scale, for instance, or like a theme that I will like improvise around, stuff like that. But yeah, it's important for me to keep this possibility of live, you know, because if everything is too prepared, now I don't feel comfortable either. I feel like a machine executing something very, which is fine by me as a listener. Sometimes I don't mind it, but I want this special energy that I can only get when something happens with the moment.
Yeah, and do you react on the reaction of the audience?
Well, not so much, because it's more about, I mean, it's hard to really know what's going on in people's mind, you know? Sometimes you're like, oh, they don't dig it at all, they really don't like it, and then they will really applause, and you say, oh, okay. And then sometimes it's the opposite, so it's better not to think about it and just focus on what you're doing and just be ready to assume and to deal with the consequences later, you know. But I think if you maybe focus too much on people's mind, it will make your music go in some certain direction in order to please the people, and maybe it's not the best thing to do, I think.
Sometimes you have really like danceable rhythms.
Yeah.
And do you like it if the people dance, stand up and dance?
I love it so much. It's incredible, because it's also, I don't know, I feel like the European culture is all about this like separation between the performer and the audience, and you know, people sitting down and like listening to it very respectfully, and it's also, I mean, it's fine, but I really like that in some other parts of the world you have this frontier. This line is like very blurry, and people will say like clap their hands and dance and be part of the process, and then you have this exchange of energy that is way more enjoyable for the musician, I think, than people sitting down and be very passive. But I understand this being part of a culture, and it works with a certain kind of music, and if you go to a classic concerto, you don't want people dancing around because it's like inappropriate. But I have a lot of rhythm in what I do, and it's very influenced by African music, for instance. And if you see music in Africa, for sure people won't be sitting down and be passive. They will interact, as I said, clapping and chanting or whistling and doing, you know, whatever. But I think that's the wonderful thing about the music being something to create an exchange with someone else, and there is this aspect of me and you sharing something through the music that is, I think, a beautiful thing. So that's why I like when people show me that they are here and that they are part of the thing and that they enjoy it. That's the dream.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much, and have a good concert.
Yes, thank you very much.